What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome to my channel. If you are new, then you probably have no idea what is going on, but I am typically a family vlogger. However, I do own a side business. I do have a degree in baking and pastry from Le Cordon Bleu, so I own a side business where I do cakes, custom cakes of all kinds. This video is going to be a video about a wedding cake. So here, I guess to start out, what you first saw was me working on some fondant pieces, getting everything prepped ahead of time. And now I am working on the cake batter. It's a very simple cake. It's an almond cake. So here I am just mixing it up and getting everything prepped so that we can get the cakes in the oven and get everything finalized and get ready to decorate. What you're seeing here is I always use parchment sheets paper. I've learned that if I don't use them, the cakes literally will always stick. So I always prep my pans with parchment paper before I fill the batter, and then they go in the oven, and that way I know I can get the cakes out even, flat, and without sticking to the pan. And here are the fondant pieces I was prepping earlier. They are all set and ready to go, as well as there are some of the cakes that I had prepped ahead of time. In this clip, I am spray painting them because the cake that the bride asked for is actually for a Great Gatsby New Year's Eve wedding, so she wanted gold pieces to go with it. So here they are, finished and spray painted gold. Now that the cakes are all ready to go, it is time to go ahead and start prepping the decorations for them. So sometimes I have to level cakes, sometimes I don't. So I included both kind of like different pieces here of this whole process. Obviously, once the cakes are leveled, then I ice them between the layers and around the layers. I swear there's so much technique to this, but at the same time, there's like no technique. It really just depends on everything. I try to be so precise, but sometimes it just has to go with the flow. Oh, this clip, what I'm doing is working on my cake boards. I always cover my boards with some kind of paper. I don't really know what it's called exactly. I'll leave a link down below. I'm sure you can find it on Amazon. I get it at Walmart. But I stack usually the thin layers. I usually stack 3 to 4 together depending on the size of the cake, and then I cover it. And fun story about this is I actually used to work at a cake shop, and that's how I learned to do this whole process. And I never would have learned how to do this, but I was told it's kind of like covering a seat cushion, like a pin cushion. You pull it so that you're constantly pulling it around the edges to try and keep it even. I literally would have had no idea, but shout out to Miss Elf. She was the owner of the bakery I used to work at, and she was phenomenal at teaching me so many of my little tips and tricks that I use when I'm doing cakes. And here's just more clips of me getting this cake ready. This was actually the Grooms Cake, so what you're about to see is me decorating it. I was so nervous about this, and I obviously didn't use the technique I intended on doing because I had already put it on the board ahead of time without thinking. So I was going to roll it in sprinkles, but that didn't work out. So instead, I had to kind of create my own technique, and it took me forever, but I really like the way it ended up turning out. So this is just me putting thousands upon thousands upon thousands of sprinkles onto the cake. So this is actually now moving on to the wedding cake. I am getting it prepped. Obviously it's a stacked cake, so I use the smaller cake pans to kind of give me an edge of where my supports need to go on the inside of it. So that's what you saw with the cake pan on top, was kind of giving me a border, and then now I'm working on my wooden dowels that I use as my support pieces. I just get them all level and put into the cake, and that's how it goes. There's literally thousands of different ways you can do this, but wooden dowels are the cheapest and simplest, and that's kind of what I learned on, so I'm a creature of habit, so I stick to what I learned to begin with. rinse and repeat. Pretty much do this for every layer. So that's what you see here is me moving on to the middle layer of the cake and doing the same thing. And then you stack it. And once you're all done, there you go. That's what the cake looks like. Here I am piping on a border of the cake. The original picture didn't have one, but obviously like you can see the cake layers and I hate the way that looks. So since it's not a fondant cake, it's a buttercream cake, what I'm working on now is getting my borders put on and then icing in those little spots that you can see the cake still through. Obviously because the cake's a little darker and the icing is white, you can still see pieces of it. So I worked on fixing that. And then this clip, sorry that I'm kind of in the way, but I was working on the fondant pieces and I kind of had already done the first 2 layers before I forgot to film. So when I finally got my phone out to film, I didn't really have a place to put it. So I just kind of put it there and you can see me kind of going back and forth, adding the pieces to create the design that the bride wanted. And adding a couple of touches more gold just to fill in those spots. Okay, here's me being really awkward in front of the camera, showing you my outfit that I deliver in. I like to be in all black as a vendor, and I always wear a hat and tennis shoes. Hat to keep my hair out of the way, and tennis shoes for comfort and stability. And then here are the final products of the cake. They turned out so good.